I'm Helen from Autotrader. So a tiny little bit of housekeeping. So for those in the room, we're not expecting a fire alarm to go off. If it does go off, please just follow myself, Sarah and Fuzia outside of the building. Toilets are also just outside. And yeah, we've been super pleased at Autotrader to have been part of this programme for the past 18 months or so now. And it's really nice to be in the room to close this off today, and really looking forward to listening to our wonderful speaker today. And yeah, I think that's it. Fidel, I will hand over to you if that's okay. Background.
Okay, so I will be super quick. So just for everybody online in particular, just be aware that the webinar is being recorded and will be shared via the Center for Voluntary Sector Leadership website and the newsletter, and in a follow-up email which will be sent to people who are attending. We will be disabling the mics and cameras due to numbers. If you have any questions, we have got the Q&A facility. Please use it as much as you can. And we can also use the chat function. And it will be super interesting if people could tell us, obviously, where they are. Just if you say where you are joining us from, it will be terrific to know who is joining us and where they are joining us from. So to just very quickly to say something about the Open University for people who are not familiar. We are the largest university in the UK, obviously. Since 1969, we have had over 2.3 million students, and at the moment, we have over 200,000 students. So the Black Leadership and Empowerment Program was part of our response to, obviously, what happened in 2020, in particular, the call for racial equity through the Black Lives Matter protest. And as a consequence, we developed a product to try to help develop the leadership of Black and ethnic minorities. We were delighted to have Autotrader, where I am at the moment, Manchester Airport Group to come on board. And in particular, we were delighted to have the then Prince's Trust, currently the King's Trust, to help us to recruit the students. And you'll be hearing from one of the students today to give her testimonial. I will not be taking too much time. Suffice to say that I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Shakenna Williams. She is the Executive Director of the Frank and Eileen Center for Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership at Babson College in Boston. And I started earlier by apologizing for making her day start too early. I believe it is 6 o'clock in Boston as we speak. And she's an innovator, a thought leader, change maker, and diversity, equality, inclusion advocate who refuses to accept the status quo. The floor over to you, Shakenna. Can't wait to hear what you have to say to us. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Fidel, for that great introduction. Good day, everyone. I have a question for you. Have you ever asked yourself what true leadership looks like in a world where power, resources, and opportunities are not equally distributed? Good day. To all the distinguished guests, participants, and change makers gathered here today, it is truly an honor to be with you, especially on today, the significance of International Human Rights Day. This day commemorates the adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, a fundamental document advocating for equality and fairness. Today, we are reminded of the importance of reducing inequalities and advancing human rights for all people, especially of those whose voices have been silenced and whose potentials has been overlooked. As we reflect on this year's theme, equality, reducing inequalities and advancing human rights, I invite you to consider how leadership transforms when you truly understand the difference between equality and equity. This reflection requires us to really deeply look at our systems, our roles, and our collective responsibility to create a more just and equitable world. So let's get real about leadership. In this speech, my whole goal is to fire you up to really rethink about equality and equity, because just treating everyone the same isn't going to cut it. We're here to tackle the challenges that Black leaders face, arm our allies with strategies to break barriers, and to prove that collaboration and empathy are the secret sauce to be thriving in this society. Plus, I'm going to give you some inside scoop about how Babson College Center for Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership is leading in the charge with groundbreaking programs and partnerships that make equity more than just a buzzword. It's our mission. I'm going to share a slide with you. Can you see my slides now? Emily, can you help me out?
No, we can't see the slides yet.
Not yet, not yet. Okay, I'm going to work this out. No worries. All right. Here we go. You see me now? All right. So I wanted to show a quick picture of some of our students here. So let me repeat the opening question. Have you ever asked yourself what true leadership looks like in a world where power, resources, and opportunities are not equally distributed? This question lies at the heart of our discussion today. It is one that we must grapple with if we are to create a more equitable society. True leadership in this complex world requires a deep understanding of the nuances between equality and equity. It demands a commitment to not just providing equal opportunity, but ensuring equitable outcomes. It calls for leaders who can navigate the complexity of the systemic barriers and work tirelessly to dismantle them. I would have never thought that I would be working at the #1 school for entrepreneurship. And we just mostly got ranked recently by the Wall Street Journal of being the #2 best colleges in the United States, right after Princeton. Babson College was founded in 1919 for white males to learn about entrepreneurship, to go back into their family business and grow their businesses. Babson College back then was not designed for a Black girl like me. Babson admitted their first class of women only 50 years ago. And the center, where I am the executive director for, has only been in existence for 25 years. Think about the systemic barriers that women and also people of color faced 50, 40, 30, or even 20 years ago. As I can tell you firsthand, as a Black woman graduate of Babson College 30 years ago, that's right, I graduated from Babson 30 years ago, major change has happened. What I didn't see back 30 years ago was a diversity in faculty and staff. There was a lot of social isolation. The curriculum lacked diverse perspective, and there was limited support systems for people of color, just to name a few. And then we think about career opportunities. There were few internship opportunities. The glass ceiling was prevalent in many industries, and there was a lack of alumni network. Now, if we fast forward to the work of the hard work, as I mentioned, to really break the systemic barriers of the faculty, the staff, and even the alums of Babson, the Center for Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership was created to create a safe place for our women identifying students to participate in co-curricular activities. In that, we saw on our campus an increase in diversity in our faculty and staff. We've had tailored programs for women and also minorities. We've expanded our networks as far as mentorship. We're able to recruit more people to work with our students. We have more inclusive curriculum, and has also improved career support. This journey has transformed the lives and fostered more diversity, equitable, and also inclusion in the business landscape. Now, reflecting on the transformation, it compels me to critically examine the foundations of both the words equality and equity. Understanding their distinct definition is essential to sustaining meaningful progress. So let me begin by defining equality and equity. Equality refers to treating everyone the same, offering the same resources, opportunities, and chances to succeed. In theory, that sounds perfect, right? But reality demands a more nuanced approach. Equity recognizes that people start from different places and have different needs. So we must provide tailored resources and opportunity to level the playing field. It's not just about offering the same thing to everyone. It's about offering what is needed for everyone to thrive equally. So imagine a classroom of students who have different levels of understanding. Equality might mean giving everyone the same textbook and expecting the same result. But equity, however, involves understanding which student needs tutoring, which needs encouragement, and who might need advanced materials to stay challenged. Equity addresses the root of disparities and offers a real chance of success for everyone. I want to share another slide that we found really showing the differences between. So if we look to the left, we see that equality, everybody has the same size box to look over the gate. But equity provides what each one of those people needs to see over the gate. All right. So in summary, equality, promises uniformity, but equity delivers opportunity. The next part, what I really want to dive into is the challenges that we all face as Black leaders. And in doing some research about your program, I applaud the founder, particularly creating this program just like I did at Babson for Black leaders during COVID and 2020. But in this stance, what I want to talk about briefly, and we all know, is the biases and the challenges that Black leaders face. And what I call this is a domino effect. One thing in my research, what I find is that when there are systemic challenges, and I'll list a few of them, from the wage gap to starting businesses, I call this a domino effect. These things and these challenges go beyond the surface. As Black leaders, we face a set of unique challenges that go unseen and unacknowledged when compared to our white counterparts. These challenges can manifest in various ways, including societal biases, professional obstacles, and emotional tolls. I'm going to continue on for the sake of time. So you saw the challenges that Black people, leaders face, and these unique challenges, I'm going to go through them, and I know there's going to be time for questions, so I can dig a little bit deeper if you have any additional questions. But there's stereotypes and biases, really the assumption of our capacity. So dealing with a lot of microaggressions, questions about quality, and really comparison against our white counterpart. Even within the stereotype and biases, we're dealing with tokenism. Many times as Black leaders, we're burdened with being the representative for the whole Black race. And as I was speaking at another conference, it's like, I cannot talk on behalf of the whole Black race. I can only talk about my experience and the people that I have interacted with. Another thing that Black leaders face is navigating double standards. It's around perfectionism, expectations, and limited rooms to be very vulnerable about their feelings. Another unique challenge that we face is lack of representation and mentorship. Again, as I mentioned, being in spaces where you're the only and you're trying to break through that glass ceiling, there is some sense of isolation in our leadership space, and also ability to be in additional networks. Another challenge that I've come across, and also it's documented in research, is emotional and psychological labor. And next year, I'm really going to be focusing on this particular topic around the psychological safety, particularly for Black women entrepreneurs, and really dealing with like the burden we're dealing with as far as championing diversity and inclusion in the spaces that we're in. And also, a term that is used is code switching. Many times we feel we have to modify our behavior, our speech, or even our appearance to fit into the cultures that we are working in. Another barrier is systemic barriers. Access to capital is huge amongst Black women entrepreneurial leaders, and also institutional racism. Implicit expectation to educate. Many times, as I mentioned a few seconds ago, many times we're put in situations that we're expected to educate our peers about race and equity issues. And I think this should definitely be a collective issue across the board, particularly in higher education. And also, lastly, I would like to address the emotional toll and health impacts. Dealing with so many stress factors, as I mentioned before, about navigating double standards, the stereotypes and biases definitely plays a role in our psychological and health that we go through. But as we progress, as progression has been made, we must address these unseen challenges and require intentional efforts to create equitable and inclusive environments where Black leaders can thrive without having to carry these additional burdens. Recognizing and addressing these disparities is really critical step in changing the world that we live in. And I'm going to address that how as Black leaders and also as allies, how we can do that. Systemic barriers extend beyond race, so I want to address that as well. It encompasses complex social, political, and economic changes. So for an example, in studies constantly showing disparities in access to funding of Black entrepreneurs and mentorship, and also opportunities for professionals and representation in leadership roles across the board. So we need to think, yes, systemic barriers do relate to race, but it also deals with us professionally, and then also with us trying to grow and scale our businesses. I want to talk a little bit about, in my role, what I've done to try to break this systemic barrier, and my team definitely having the support of my team to bring this forward. And what I've seen firsthand as I really targeted Black women entrepreneurs, particularly during 2020, what the college and I found, especially in the data, we talk about the unique challenges. Women across the board are plagued with lack of access to capital, right, to start and grow their businesses. But when we dig deep in the research, when it came to Black women entrepreneurs, it was lack of entrepreneur education, it was lack of mentorship, and also networks, as I mentioned before. Now, I also mentioned before, I worked for the #1 school for entrepreneurship. And I said, you know what? How could I do my part? How could we do our part as a college, as a center, to help Black women entrepreneurs? And we created a program called the Black Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership Program. And this program was intentionally designed for and Black women entrepreneurs to create a safe place of community that we could hear our voices, but also advance each other in our individual businesses. This program didn't just level the playing field, but it allowed us to reimagine what the field can look like when everybody's involved. I want to talk about next the power of equitable support. And I think this is really important, as we all are, and I know you're here listening to me, but as we all champion the importance of not only equality, but equity. It's good to understand that the power that we all have individually, but also collectively. But again, going back to my example about BWEL, the program was able to tailor mentorship for successful Black entrepreneurs. So we were able to create, recruit, mentors that look like the participants. That had that experience, because when we think about mentors, these are people that have gone through what they're going to mentor their mentee about and help them quickly or navigate through the various processes. We also provided access to networks and resources. Babson is filled with rich resources, and I'm talking about giving access to our library, our speech center, dealing with our partners who, one of them was a law firm that offered free legal advice for our participants. Our curriculum was designed to address the specific challenges that Black women face. So we started off the conversation talking about mental health and wellness and about the multiple hats that we wear as Black women leaders. In the results were really remarkable, which I really appreciate the testimonials. And I know those that run programs really love to read the feedback that we receive from these various programs that we pour into. And our participants reported increased confidence in their leadership ability, which is huge. Expanded professional networks. Again, these women were from across the United States, working in small communities. They were able to meet their peers from all over the world. And the significant growth in their business. Again, I tell our participants, our funders, and also our allies, there's one thing about giving access and opening a door, but there's another thing when you give over your resources and your network to help a person grow either professionally or in their business. All right, how am I with time? I'm okay.
You are fine with time. You still got 5 minutes if you'd like to use it.
All right. So I'm going to jump to giving some advice to our allies. And I'm going to skip the screen here, and hopefully the music does not play. But if it does, I will just read off the acronym for you. So the first one, I have a call to action for our allies. And I'm using the word ally as an acronym for A is to acknowledge systemic barriers. So really understanding the challenges that Black leaders face and recognizing the historical and structural obstacles that have been built over generations. So this is not something that just happened yesterday. This is built over generations. Take the time to listen and learn and actively support and dismantle the system that is perpetuating inequality. The L stands for lift your voices. Lift your voices, amplify the voices of Black leaders in spaces where they're often marginalized. Use your platform and influence and network to create opportunities for Black leaders. The next L is lead by example. Again, lead with intention and integrity. Where in the workplace or even policy or personal network, advocate for equitable practices. And the Y stands for yield, support, and resources. Actively offer your resources, whether financial, professional, or social, to support Black leaders in their endeavors. Now I'm going to skip over to do a call of action to Black leaders. And this acronym is LEAD. So the first one, starting with L, is leverage your strength. So really identify your unique experiences, your knowledge and perspective. Your leadership is very valuable. So bring everything to the table that no one else can. The E stands empower and elevate others. As you rise, reach back and pull up others with you. Mentor, guide, and invest in the next generation of Black leaders. I spent a lot of time in my community mentoring young women and girls. Advocate, A stands for advocate for your worth. So again, demand the resources, demand that recognition or opportunity, and align your expertise and contribution. And D, Dedicate yourself to lifelong learning and drive change. Never stop evolving. And again, learn as much as you can. Google is our friend, and learn and elevate others. And embrace the challenges, not only as a challenge, but as an opportunity to grow and stay adaptable, resilient, and committed to growth. So, as I end, I'm going to conclude with a few things around inviting you again to think about that critical question that I started off with. In your leadership role, how are you ensuring the power and resources and opportunities are not just equally distributed, but equitably distributed? There's a difference. Consider the unique needs and starting points of those you lead and how you tailor your support and create truly fair outcomes. I want to leave you with my favorite African proverb that has guided me through my journey. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And on International Human Rights Day, let us commit to not just dreaming about change, but creating it step by step together. Thank you. I got nervous. I didn't see anybody. I was like, oh no.
Sorry, I was
That's
going to say,
okay. And
yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna if I could share real quick, I'm gonna share figure out how to share my contact information, but it's not allowing me to share my screen. But it's okay.
So don't worry, because when you share your presentation slides,
Yes.
we will disseminate them to people who came, and you can include your contact details.
Okay. Yep. It's right there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So I see it. It is there. Yes, but people will be getting slides anyway, so that's fine. So thank you very much, Shakenna. So a lot of food for thought, and I have not been able to see the Q&A and the sort of the chat because we are in the room now. I've tried through the phone. I know there are a lot of questions, but before we get there, what I'm going to do is to ask one of the participants in our program, Jada, to come here and give a quick testimony about her experience from the program and what she's going to do next. And then we'll open up and hear some questions from both the audience here, but also from people online. Over to you. Yeah, so yes. You want to finish?
This way or where do you want to? If you want to look at it, and you can just stand behind it. So hi everyone, my name is Jada. I took part in the Black Leadership Program through the Prince's Trust. So I think it was like last year, these times, December, we had like a meeting, just kind of explaining what it was about, and it seemed like something that I would be interested in. But at the time, I had like just had a baby, so I was in the room and I was like thinking in my head, like, am I going to be able to actually make it through this program? So the program started in February. I wasn't able to fully commit to it until about June, July, when my son started like sleeping through the night. So I just took nighttime to do what I needed to do. And in that time, I found the program very insightful. And I picked like certain things that would relate to what I wanted to work on in the workplace. So like project management, I do voluntary work. So I picked one to do with voluntary work, remotely and things like that. So I did complete the program in September. And from there, I was able to stay on with the Open University and progress onto a degree. So I'm currently studying my degree in computer science, IT, and business management, which I wouldn't have been able to do if I didn't go onto the Black Leadership Program, because I would have had to like do an access course and things like that. So the program's been really beneficial for me. it's also really improved my confidence. I feel like when you have taken a break from education and then you go back into learning, it's like, okay, I can actually like I can learn, it's fun, I enjoy learning. You kind of just can discover a different part of yourself. So that's that. Thank you guys for listening.
Okay, so Emily, I don't know if you want to, if there are questions you want to raise. If there are not, I have a few for Shakenna. So and then we can also get people from the audience here to ask a question. You know, so I'll put you on the spot if it's no. If there are no questions.
Of course.
Yes.
We do have a question. I'll just spotlight Shakenna so everyone can see. There we go. So we've had a question from Sheena, which is, well, she thanks you for your great presentation. How many entrepreneurs are in each cohort and how did you select the participants? I think that one's for Fidel.
That's a great question. So our cohort size has definitely changed from each cohort. So we started off in when we did our first recruiting for cohort 1, we didn't know if anyone entrusted us with their time and their, sharing of their business. So we kind of did an open call and we had over 200 applications within a week and we accepted 43 people in the first cohort. The second cohort was 47. But what we realize is when we're teaching about entrepreneurship and everybody's at different stages, it's hard to have a conversation with that. So we narrowed down the requirements and now the cohort size is a max of 25 people. And we interview everyone based on the set of questions and there's a criteria to join.
Thank you so much. Okay, we haven't got any other questions in the Q&A. I'll keep monitoring for you, Fidel. If you want to take some from the room, that would be fine.
Yeah, that's fine. So any volunteer in the room? I don't want to put anybody on the spot. You have a come here then. Yeah. Yes, of course.
Good morning or good afternoon. Let me bring
It's
you up.
morning.
Can you see me? There you
Good
go.
morning. Yeah.
What are the main industries that you get applicants from an entrepreneurial perspective? Is it mainly in tech or is there a broad brush of various different industries that you work with?
Right. So both of our accelerators with our center is industry agnostic, but what we normally see is a lot of service-based businesses. But when we change the criteria to the revenue being higher, we do see a few people in tech, and then also a lot of people in coaching as well, like mental health coaching.
Okay. And what's been the kind of most popular kind of entrepreneurs that you've worked with in that time and where they've gone to since?
Well, I would say we've met a lot of great entrepreneurs across the board. And I think the most kind of one that stands out to me when people talk about success metrics is one person, she was doing okay with her business. She had a coffee shop business. So we have a lot of product-based businesses as well. And she never had to create a pitch deck. So imagine being in business for 3 or 4 years, never had to create a pitch deck. And we helped her through that process and then also helped her with her capability statement, which is a tool that entrepreneurs use to go after procurement opportunities. And through that, she was able to join another one of our programs through the center. And she was featured on Good Morning America, which is a huge TV show here early in the morning, and talk a little bit about her business. And that really helped her business grow. A coffee shop that had a social impact twist to it. So she was a community activist. So it was able to build the confidence with her. She was able to pitch for additional money, but also speak on a national platform.
Excellent. Final question, sorry. What's the single most popular characteristic that you've seen across all of the entrepreneurs that you've overseen?
Characteristics. they're very resilient. Entrepreneurship is not easy, right? So dealing with all the things that I talked about, all the biases, systemic things that they had to go through as professionals, then they go into being entrepreneurs. They are really really determined to make it happen, but they're also passionate about their community. So one of the things when I'm talking to funders about is like when you invest in a Black woman entrepreneur, you're not just investing in her, you're investing in her community and also the world.
Excellent. Thank you, Shakenna. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Great question. Thank you.
So Shakenna, while Emily tries to see if there are any questions in the chat, I have one for you.
Yes.
Which obviously I think everybody will more or less ask the same question. We know what is happening in America. We know what is happening here.
Mm-hmm.
But this whole fight against what they call work culture.
Mm-hmm.
So today, every time you want to create an initiative for some disadvantaged community,
right.
There is always this question of what about?
Right.
That's what I'm making. So how do you maintain the sort of resilience, the push to drive for equity, while at the same time fighting some fire coming from some community, some groups within society who are saying, why are you picking one cause rather than another one? In other words, how do you deal with this hierarchy of isms?
Right. So I'm going to answer that in two parts. And I see one of the top researcher here that oversees our thought leadership for our centers on the call. So I'm going to start with facts. So we base everything that we do based on data. And we can supply this information to you, Fidel, and to the group. Is starting in 2019, there was a document created by American Express, the State of Women Entrepreneurship. In that document, it highlighted and really emphasizes the high growth of Black women-owned businesses in America. But what it was, we applied, we're like, oh yes, we're the fastest growing. But when you look at the revenue for Black women entrepreneurs, the average revenue was $24,000, right? Compared to $218,000 for non-minority groups. That's a huge gap. Right. So going back to the domino effect that I was trying to show is that why does that happen is because we're not getting paid the same. So we can't invest the same amount of money into our businesses. And normally we're working 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet. So we don't have the additional time to invest. So we base our starting the Black Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership based on research. The second part, when I'm talking to funders or when people, challenge me of like why only Black women entrepreneurs, is that until the playing field is equal, we have to add these additional supports. And Babson is doing our part as far as entrepreneurship education. I'm going towards, and my goal is, and our team goal is, to maybe eliminate our Black Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership program when there's no need. Until that happens, we're going to continue offering the service, but also diversifying our other programs. We're really intentional, and my team knows that, I ask a lot of questions, about panels. Is it diverse? Our faculty, are we incorporating our faculty? So again, until everyone is giving the opportunity, right, the same access, and we talk about being equal versus equity, like we have to provide additional resources for those that have always been historically overlooked.
Thank you. So,
and I have a lot of great people, Fidel. Like again, I have a strong advisory board team as well. So definitely having your allies is really important when you're creating programs such as the ones that we've created.
Thank you very much, Shakenna. Emily, any question from the chat or the Q&A?
Yes, we've got a couple. They're quite comprehensive, so you'll just have to bear with me. But we've had a question through from Alex, who is one of our entrepreneurs in residence in the Open University. And he believes, obviously, that creating equity is really important to support the disadvantaged and excluded groups to engage with international markets. So his sort of question is, well, he's interested in your perspective on raising participation and funding for exports and international expansion.
Mhm. That is a topic we're going to tackle next year. So definitely like to partner and talk to that person more about that. One of the things that we did as a first step for all of our women alumni, and we also embedded it into our Black Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership Program, is the conversation around procurement opportunities and contracts. The next step is talking about import exports, because we know here in the United States, yes, we can definitely do a lot of business, but there's a lot of great opportunity when we collaborate with other organizations and also communities outside the United States, and even making products. We know there's definitely a great opportunity for us to grow and scale faster when we collaborate with different countries.
Thank you so much. I'll make sure to pop your information in the follow-up
but
email as well, so you guys can link up.
Yep, that's definitely our next step.
Perfect. Okay, we've got another question in the Q&A, which is, as a global majority leader that has operated in contested organizational spaces where systemic inequality is embedded, what advice would you give us as to why we should continue to endure the psychological warfare and organizational induced stress in working in these spaces when the emotional burden of racism is often left to us to address, rather than seeing the silent majority take up the many calls to action?
Yeah, that's a great question. Why is it important? I think it's important because there were people before us that fought for us to see where we are today, right? And I think about, I want to use the example of my parents. My father was a Marine. He went to Vietnam. He did 2 tours actually in Vietnam, came back, could not find viable employment to support, his growing family. They just got married. My parents just got married, and he started a business, a beauty supply business, out the trunk of his car. Right. This is early 70s. If we fast forward it to now, we think about, are we supplying the resources for our veterans when they come out of the service to find a job, start a business? And I would say yes, but we're not providing right now the support for our veterans, for people historically marginalized, and the fight has to continue. When I think about people, especially our veterans, they're putting their life on the line for our country, and we can't give them viable employment. We can't support them in their entrepreneurial goals. And I know in that question, the psychological, challenges that we're going through. And I know personally myself, I'm doing more research on about mental health, because this is something that has to be embedded in entrepreneurship training. And then also, you say why, and I say why not? Someone has paid the way for us, and I think it's only our right as leaders, be it Black leaders or allies, that we continue to use the platforms and circles that we're in to advance the next generation. And I think education and conversations are really important. So one of the things we have at Babson in our Center for Social Innovation, we have courageous conversations of talking about various topics until we're all at the table, understanding each other's differences and also similarities. I mean, we're still going to have these challenges. So again, I would encourage you to keep on fighting. Also, create a community that can help you as well, that can listen to you, because you definitely need support. You need someone or some people to talk to. So definitely surround yourself with like-minded people. I hope I answered your question.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Shakenna.
Okay, so Emily, there are no questions from the online. So I have another further question for Shakenna. If people don't ask questions, I have to step in.
Okay.
So my question is, what kind of follow-up do you undertake for people who have been on your program? I'm thinking about Jada, who spoke to us earlier. So is this it, or what do you suggest we do?
Yes. So follow from the program, everyone does have an opportunity to meet with the lead faculty. So many times it's me or somebody else on the team or a faculty member. We also do monthly newsletters. We have a platform that we use. We use WhatsApp and also Slack to stay in contact with them, to provide them any information. We are filled with information, and my kind of superpowering gift, I love to give out information and resources. So we've created a system of communicating to them in real time of any information that we receive. We tried kind of post-COVID to kind of meet regionally in person, because again, we ran these programs during COVID and it was virtual. We didn't meet face to face. But also, a shameless plug, next year we're celebrating our 25th anniversary. So we're inviting all of our alums to come back to meet us in the main campus for a fantastic weekend, October 2nd, to meet with us in person. But we also provide virtual alumni gatherings and educational opportunities.
Thank you. And
Yes.
yeah. So, and what I'm going to do now, I think I'm going to call on somebody to come here, because I
know.
I told her she would come. I put her on the spot. Sonia, over to you.
Yes.
So, I mean, we've recently seen, I think you sort of touched on it before, around the financial challenges for Black entrepreneurs. And I suppose I'm wondering how we overcome the challenges, and how we get the investors to the table to change their mindsets and get them more actively investing in Black entrepreneurs and Black businesses and Black organisations, because it's a huge challenge.
Right. It is a huge challenge. So one of the things that I tell allies to do is get a basic understanding, particularly when you're advocating. So one thing I didn't get to in this presentation is about the difference between mentorship and sponsorship. So one thing we know, a mentor has been through that experience and helping that person navigate through their life. But a sponsor is one that's going to like advocate for them when that person's not in the room. So, sometimes when I'm talking to investors, they don't really understand some of the unique businesses that Black entrepreneurs start. And particularly during COVID, we had a lot of people having hair care product businesses. So they don't understand like why investing in this product is going to make them a lot of money. So this understanding that Black hair care industry is a billion-dollar industry. So I would say, understanding, advocating, and then also ensuring that the person that you're advocating for is prepared. Because there's only the worst thing that can ever happen. You open a door for them and give them the opportunity, and they're not prepared either with their pitch presentation. They don't understand their financials. So just giving them the added support that they need to be successful when the opportunity does arrive.
So as Black leaders, what can we do to open the doors to those investors and bring those investors to the table to change the way they think about Black businesses strategically?
Yeah, I would say if there's opportunities when they have conferences, or you know them individually, or you invite them in to, observe a cohort, or even be a judge for a pitch competition, invite them into your space so they can understand the community, because sometimes they are looking, but they just don't know where to go. And we hear it all the time. We don't know where Black entrepreneurs are, and sometimes we have to invite them into our space, and it's okay. They want to be invited.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So, Emily, I don't know if there is any final question from the online participants.
We do have one question in the Q&A. So is entrepreneurial leadership a way of circumnavigating dominant leadership and an emancipatory leadership practice mainly practiced by GM women leaders?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Of course. Is entrepreneurial leadership a way of circumnavigating dominant leadership and an emancipatory leadership practice mainly practiced by GM women leaders?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if I think of understanding the question is it starting your own business a way out of not getting leadership opportunities within like corporate organizations? Is that what you're saying?
I believe so.
Okay.
There's a question from Lacey, so if she wants to elaborate in the chat, I can relay.
Yeah, so one of the things I also going back to the data, the reason why Black leaders start businesses is because they're often overlooked in their corporate position. Again, there's a huge wage gap, right? They're not being heard. And many times I'm talking to these entrepreneurs, even in their interview, is that they are, they're tired. They're tired. They come up with these great ideas. They don't get credit for them. And they say, you know, why not? I can start my own business, have the autonomy, the freedom, make the money that I want to make, and get the credit I deserve and move forward. But I would say to that person, don't leave, you know, and start your business just because of that reason. Be prepared. So take the time while you're working to build up the skills that you need, learn more about the industry you're about to go into, know about your competitors before you quit that job. Because entrepreneurship, even though there's a lot of programs out there, is a lonely journey and it's extremely hard.
Yeah.
Thank you for that one.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. These are great questions.
Yeah, so before I say my thank yous, I'm going to invite, our colleague from Autotrader to come and say some closing remarks, and then we'll thank everyone, and then we'll close. Over to you, Sarah. Yes.
It's a good job. We really love you for that. So with no preparation whatsoever, closing words from myself and Helen. I think it just goes without saying that the journey we've been on alongside you over the last 12 months has just been such a joy to working with you and learning and everything that we've took from it. And it's just been a pleasure to see it come together. I think it's even been more delightful to hear from you, like what's next, and all the great funding and opportunities that you secured to make this program even bigger. There's been a lot of learning along the way, definitely a lot of learning, but it's just been a joy to see it come together, and hearing your story today has kind of brought that all to one place. For me personally, hearing the talk today, and the gentleman's name who I forgot that gave the talk last time was just fascinating, and Tony have taken so many things away.
Hello, that was wonderful. I've not really much more to add, to be honest. But yeah, it's been a joy to work with you, Fidel, on this programme. And as Sarah said, looking forward to seeing, I guess, what we can do next with the cohort of people that have been through the programme. Thanks everyone for coming in the room today. Great questions online as well. And thank you for the wonderful speakers that we've had, obviously today, and Tony as well. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.